Okay, so now let's get started. Again, I want to welcome everyone. We are so happy to have you join us. So let's start off with some introductions and then I'm going to get things kicked off. So I'm Donna Walker, a practice development coach with Clarity. And I've also got along with me today, Lori Ritchie, who is also a senior practice development coach with Clarity. Um, I will man the Q&A and Lori's going to man the chat. So if you guys feel like you want to put something in the chat or in the Q&A, please do so. Today's presentation is brand management. We are delighted to have Aria Bird presenting. She is an art director at Pinpoint Creative and has been specializing in branding and design for over the past decade, with her passion being to help businesses elevate their brands to the next level. She's now found a love for the aesthetics industry, and over the past 5 years has been helping aesthetic practices create brands that attract the patients that they want. So without further ado, I'm going to let Aria Bird take it over.
All right, thank you, Donna. Hi, I'm Aria Bird. Like she said, I'm the art director at Pinpoint. Thank you so much for being here today to talk about brand management. We're going to be looking into hiring an external versus internal brand management team that's actually worth it. All right, starting off with what is brand management? It can be defined in a number of ways, but how I like to define it is that brand management is the practice of cultivating marketing and branding techniques that create, maintain, and optimize a brand's perceived value over time. And I highlighted practice because this is something that we're going to have to keep doing. It's not a one and done thing. And then I also highlighted perceived value because this is all about how patients are perceiving us and that emotional connection that we're going to touch on. And then I just love this quote. A great brand is the story that never stops unfolding. And we can't really talk about brand management without touching on branding as well. This is one of my favorite quotes. It's all about the story that we want to tell. And without clear and consistent brand management, your brand equity decreases by the day. And I know brand equity has kind of become a little bit of a buzzword lately. So we want to talk about that too, because I don't want you to be missing out on that as well. And so let's talk about what brand equity is just for a second. It is the value a company's brand has in the marketplace and reflecting customer perception. So there's that word perception again, and their willingness to pay. And essentially, it's an intangible asset that's built over time through positive brand experiences and perceptions. And then I just wanted to highlight built over time because this is about longevity as well and what your long-term goals are going to be. All right, so let's jump into a few statistics really quick. The global medical aesthetics market is worth approximately 20 billion today and is projected to grow roughly 6% a year through 2028. Now, we might be feeling, I know we might be feeling like we're in a little bit of a lull. Just looking at this projection here between 2020 to 2022, we saw a big jump. I know that I saw a big jump in business for aesthetic practices. And then these past few years, it's been a little bit stagnant, but I want you to think about the next 5 years and why it's so important for you to be here today working on brand management now, because now is really the time before we go into the next 5 years. Given a strong signals from fence sitters and other potential adopters, the medical aesthetics market is ripe for growth. So just reiterating with one more statistic, here we're looking at current users versus intend to use within the next year and within the next 5 years. So this light beige color, it is consistent across the board in the next 5 years, and intend to use within the next year, definitely body focus, those weight loss is becoming big, and facial rejuvenation and skincare are going to take the lead. So really, really glad that you're here to focus on this today and get organized. And I want to zoom way out and talk about a really fun luxury brand, Gucci. And I want to talk about a luxury brand because a lot of these services that our patients are getting, they are a luxury for them. So this is Gucci's evolution of their brand over time. So it is constantly changing. And a logo isn't necessarily a brand, but it's just a great snapshot, and logos are a great way to build a brand. And Gucci proves that rebranding can revive even the most established luxury brands. So even if you've been in this for 20 plus years, you can still reimagine your branding. And they did a recent rebrand in 2019, 2015 to 2019, and they used three main brand strategy and brand management pillars to do this. So crafting a new identity without alienating their loyal customers. They retained their monogram, kept their green, red, green stripes. So they're not discarding, but reimagining. So with brand management, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to throw everything away and start over. There's still value in what you have right now. Next is millennial and Gen Z spending power. So they're reaching the audience that they want to reach that maybe they weren't already reaching. And they started to embrace digital campaigns, collaborations with youth-centric figures that audience is going to connect with. And so by 2020, this started to account for more than 60% of the sales. So where you're managing your brand to target that audience is a huge influence. And the last one, whimsy, nostalgia, narrative. The cinematic emotional campaigns, there's going to be a lot of emotional talk we're going to talk about today with patients, fostering that connection. And so they're not just a brand, but they're becoming that storyteller. Just like we talked about brand in the beginning, you want to be having a story that you're telling that's compelling. And so this is where Gucci was a couple years ago, early 2000s, 2010s. They have the red and green stripe. They have the figure in the middle, models, and then on the right they still have a close-up cropped dramatic image. And now with the redirect of their brand and managing that with these three pillars, they now look like this. So they still have the green and red stripe. They're going very high res, very modern. Then instead of just models, they have Harry Styles. That's Harry Styles in the middle because that connects with the audience that they want to connect with. And then on the far right, we still have the close cropped dramatic image, but it's now in video form. So you can see how they're not discarding, but they're just slightly changing where they're directing themselves. And this generated a $10 billion turnaround. So this is real. Branding really equals financial success, but we need to be able to manage it correctly. And so they were doubling with sales topping 10 billion by 2021. So just insane for Gucci's value. And if you're not changing it, you are choosing it. So I'm so glad you're here today. We are going to talk about how we can change it because where we are, we don't want to be stuck in just choosing it. And that's exactly what Beautifully New did. This is a med spa that came to us about 3 years ago, very feminine. It has the lips. It's very cute, very pink. And it was run and founded by nurse injector Danielle. She's gorgeous. She was all about the pink, and she started to really build her brand around her personal personality. It was just her in a solo suite, and because of her relationship with patients and her extreme expertise, she started to grow rapidly within the first 2 to 3 years. And this is what her marketing and brand management was kind of looking like. So very pink, very feminine. And then she had prices up. She was getting some price shoppers. It was mainly injectables. And she realized that she was ready to grow into a new space, that she wanted to start doing comprehensive solutions and not pigeonhole herself into injectables. So she started thinking about her long-term goals and the patients that she wanted to see. So that led us to doing a high-end brand revolution for her. This is the space she moved into. So she was in a tiny suite, just her. She realized she wanted to grow, get a team, hire a team. And you can see the pink is still here, but it's just toned down a little bit. So again, she's not necessarily throwing everything away. She's still integrating herself and her brand values, but it's for new long-term goals. This is what we took her logo to. Again, the pink is still there, Beautifully New, the layout is similar. It still has the new, smaller underneath, just these tiny details, but just slightly reimagined here. And then this is her new photography. So gorgeous. It's still definitely her, but then again, it's realigned. She's not only grasping on pink, she has a full color palette now, has a full team, is integrating a personality of the practice that she wants to have. And now this is where her marketing materials has shifted. No more price shopping. It's very sophisticated. On the right-hand side, we have stuff that was done by a design team. And then on the left-hand side, we have some social posts that her team was able to create themselves because they had the brand familiarity in this brand management. They were empowered to make some posts of their own that were still aligned with branding. So it just gives you a lot of space to grow. Mavi. So a lot of people we have seen go through this process, whether you're in Bloom, you want to sell to private equity, or your Mavi Med Spa, you want to break off into sub-brands and have the freedom to have different look and feels while still being recognizable, or your Pure Medical Spa and you want multiple locations. Audubon is also a great example of a plastic surgeon getting away from group plastic surgery, starting her own practice. It is going to give you immense growth in the direction that you personally want to go in. So what do I want? We need to take a step back now and just get very, very simple. When you're home tonight, I want you to think about what I want, and specifically in these 3 points. So we want value. What's my brand's purpose? Longevity. What are my long-term goals? Reward. What will give all I've done meaning? I want you to not be just losing time and money. This is really going to be a meaningful process, because without value, no one is buying. Without longevity, no one remembers. And without reward, no one cares. So please go home tonight, think about these 3 points, write out your questions and your answers to these, because this is going to be the foundation to start you moving in the new direction that you want to take your brand and what needs to be considered for that next step. For you, brand management's all about needs, budget, and control. There's really no right or wrong way to do brand management. It's going to be personal to you and your goals. And so we're going to look at a couple different pathways we can go down for that would be best for you. And then your patients. They are going to be focused on loyalty, feelings, and concerns, just like that Gucci pillar of we want that emotional connection with patients. That's where the branding is really going to help. And there's 4 core consumers. So we've seen this a lot. Some of us may already know these. We have the deal hunter, the glam expert, the reluctant ager, and the beauty routiner. And so Danielle, for example, with Beautifully New, she was starting out in the deal hunter, the glam expert portion on those lower percentages where there wasn't total loyalty quite yet. But as she grew, she wanted the reluctant ager, she wanted the beauty routiner, and she realized her brand wasn't attracting that quite yet. The first things first is you need a brand that's worth it and mean it. We can't manage a brand if we don't have a brand, right? So a brand worth managing, there are 6 key components of branding. So before we dive all the way into brand management, I want to touch on these key points first so that you can go home and analyze which of these you might be lacking in. Maybe you just need to elevate some of these. So here we go. Number 1, brand equity. Just like we talked about in the beginning, doing a survey, taking in information. What is bringing patients in? Are they willing to recommend you? Are they loyal to you? So taking an analyzation of that. Number 2 is brand loyalty. So those kind of tie into each other, but do you have the value to keep bringing them back, to make them want to come back? Do you have a membership program? Do you need one? 3, brand recognition and awareness. So this is where a brand familiarity tool comes into play, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but across social media, website, marketing materials, no matter where a patient sees you, they need to be able to pinpoint that that is you. And 4, brand messaging and experience. So this is the voice and tone of your brand. This is where you're asking those deep soul-searching questions of how you want your patients to feel and experience your brand. Number 5 is reputation management, ties into number 4. If they're not having a good experience, they're going to leave a bad review. So branding can really help with that so that you can train your team on how you want them to interact with patients. And 6, brand values and purpose. So going back to those questions we just asked, what do I want? What's the value? What's the reward that I'm looking for? And the time is now because we're in that lull and we can take some time. A capacity for strategy. Okay, now we're getting into brand management. These are the 6 key components of brand management, same as branding. I want you to look at these 6 components, see where we maybe need to fill in. Number 1 is strong brand identity. So now that you have the brand, how are you going to execute it through merchandise, through print materials, and having it all be consistent? Number 2, a strategy and marketing plan. Someone needs to be managing this section. I hope that you're planning at least 1 month in advance, ideally 2, but if you really want to be a star student, you would have a quarter in advance managed on how you want to execute your brand. Number 3 is target audience research. So like Danielle looking at the glam expert versus wanting to move into the reluctant ager. Who are you attracting now and who do you want to attract through your management? For consistent messaging and content marketing, it is really hard to have this be consistent without the branding process, without things like a voice and tone, knowing how you want to talk to patients, examples that people can look at of how you want to have your voice sound like. Is it educational? Is it cheeky? Is it very scientific? Something to think about. And then 5, patient and practice relationship. Really training your team on your brand and how to execute it, what it is, what it means to both your staff and your patients. And then number 6 is social media engagement. So I know we're not all going to be dancing on TikTok, but someone needs to be managing this. This is still a very important piece that needs to be included in the brand management process. Now we're going to look at the pathways. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to go about brand management, but as we go through these different personas of you, I want you to think about which one you identify with now and which one you want to level up to, because these are my kind of recommended structures for moving from internal to external. So starting with the bubbler, the owner and founder, you're right smack in the middle, and then maybe you have your initial people that you've hired. Maybe a PR team, email marketing team, just to get you started off the ground. And then you have your staff. Maybe some of your staff are wearing multiple hats and helping with some of these items. Then we might spread out a little bit more. I would want you to have a practice photo shoot and a photographer. Maybe app design would be applicable to you. Event, we could do a grand opening event design, branded assets, which you would need a print vendor for, and then a copywriter to write. And then retail design, do we want merchandise? Do we need a sign? Do we need a sign of our logo behind our front desk? And then if we do, we need a logo design. Then don't forget about the SEO analytics, then membership design, window graphics if you're under construction, wall murals. Okay, now it's getting a little intense. We have a graphic design friend. Maybe we just use AI. Maybe there's a staff member that can use Canva, or you just make it yourself in ChatGPT. Then we have the I know a guy. Then we start having someone that's recommending someone that's recommending someone. And then that one friend that just knows things all the way over to that bubble on the left, where you're just calling them because you might be overwhelmed and they give you great advice and they pump you up. So if this is where your needs, budget, and level of control that you want is right now, that's totally okay. I just want you to be aware of it. And consistency is key. So that would be at the internal level. Is your team, all of those little bubbles we looked at, are they capable of keeping the brand consistent without things getting out of control? And if nothing else, we want to have the foundation of developing a strong brand identity, because whether you hire an in-house team or an external team, you must have a strong brand identity, because without this, nothing else is going to fall into place. And why is that? Because you cannot achieve a strong brand foundation for everything else to fall into place if both you and your team have a lack of brand familiarity. We don't want to be playing telephone. You saw how many bubbles there are. We don't want things to get lost in communication because it's not worth it to spread yourself or your team thin. You want to give yourself space to win. And what is the capacity you can handle while still maintaining the level of control and consistency and value that you want? So making this decision is really based on how much control you want to have over this brand management process. And just to touch on brand familiarity tool, something like this over to the right. It could be called brand guidelines, a brand book, brand in the box, a visual brand strategy. Whatever it is, it needs to have these key bulleted items like a voice and tone, your logo, your fonts, how your color palette looks like, a library of photos that people can use. So this tool you can pass to multiple people within your team, whoever is going to be interacting with your brand and managing it. They need to have a foundation to come back to so that everything remains consistent and clear. And we've been through it too. So this is Pinpoint in 2018. It was an interesting time for us. We were in that first couple 3 years, and just like Danielle, we were very talented. We were getting the work. We had personal recommendations and connections, and the branding and brand management just kind of fell to the side. And I don't know how whiskey and cigars got next to a little girl with her pumpkin on her head, but it's just a little disjointed here. And me as a client for Pinpoint, if I was approaching Pinpoint, would I want this brand to do my luxury branding? Would I give them thousands of dollars just based on my perception of them? Maybe I would have to think about it a little bit. Then we redirected our branding. We put in the time, and the time meaning this took about 1 to 2 years to reorganize ourselves. And now as a client, even if I don't have a personal recommendation to this company, would I maybe consider giving them thousands of dollars to do my luxury branding? I might not have to ask as many questions. So that's just the turnaround. And it's really been proof for us as well. The next step up from the bubbler is the overseer. So if you're the bubbler now, you might take one step up where the owner is now not in the middle. You're putting yourself a little bit above. Your staff is maybe the cute baby on your hip. You can put your staff wherever you want throughout this process. The overseer is now condensing into categories. So we have branding and marketing, website and digital, marketing agency, media agency, and third-party vendors. So now you're overseeing, you've consolidated your bubbles into specialized teams. The only catch with this is that they're still divided. So you're still the middleman. Now, thinking again, is this the level of control that you want? If this is where you want to be and you still want to be closely interacting with each of these teams, that's great. If you're ready to grow and start to dip your toe into the water of a more external team, this would be the next step, the pointer. You're still up top, but now you have a middleman, is what we would call a brand consultant. And then you have your categories underneath. So you can still communicate with these teams, but now you have someone managing it slightly. You haven't gone full blown out yet, but this is a great next step to have a brand consultant, a singular person that you can work with that can help these categories, stop them from playing telephone and making sure everyone is working consistently across the board. So they are now helping you manage that, and they're kind of that piece of advice that you can consult with on where you want to go next. The ultimate external team would be structured like this, what I would call the truster. So now we have the owner and founder kind of almost on equal ground with a brand management team. So now it's more than one person. You have a full branding team that is helping manage every step of the way. And then they have integrated brand management partners. And the simplest way to explain that would be sales experience, online experience, and in-person experience. So at its simplest form, these are the 3 places you want to be hitting throughout your brand management pretty evenly. And then the brand management team, they're having integrated partners already for you. So you're not going to have to go out and find all those individual bubbles. They're all right here for you, and they're trusted teams. And then once again, your staff can go anywhere in this process. Now I want to kind of zoom out and look at a case study that's branding from the inside out. So it's not just about the pretty colors, it's about how you're organized on the inside as well. And I want to look at a plastic surgery practice called the Personal Enhancement Center that is run and founded by Dr. Godek. And so this is how the patients were coming to them. They're already on the same level. So we're missing a singular funnel to come into. We have two URLs, and we have patients coming and wanting Dr. Godek, but then finding the Personal Enhancement Center and not being really sure how they're related or which one they should go to. And then they opened Bella Derma Medi Spa and Bella Body, which also had another URL. And then there were these three entities just kind of out in space that patients wouldn't necessarily find unless they were personally recommended. So they were losing out because patients were having a hard time finding them, and they started to get a little fractured over time. He had been in business for 20 plus years and just kind of adding things on as he went. And now he realized he needed to hone it back in. So this is just like Gucci, a quick look at the logos. Now they had the butterfly, which is a great identifier, but the fonts, the colors were just starting to get disjointed, and we still had so many URLs we could go to. Now we re-managed his brand from the inside first to the Godek Center for Personal Enhancement. This is where brand equity comes in. He had a lot of equity in his name, Godek, and you don't necessarily have to rename to manage your brand, but it made sense for him. He always hated the name Personal Enhancement Center, and his long-term goals was to pass down his practice to his son, who was also going to be Dr. Godek. Then they reorganized it into this. So they have the rhinoplasty clinic, they have the Bella Derma Med Spa that cross-refers to the Benassar Wellness and IV Lounge that now has an identity. Then they had a private skincare label, Godek Skin, and the Inner Circle. So not only did this remanagement help patients be able to recognize and interact with them and feel clear on where they should go and what is available, but it also gave the Godek Center legs to stand on to be able to expand into skincare and a membership program. And this is what that looked like. So similarly to Beautifully New, they kept the butterfly, but it was reimagined, and then they were restructured, and it's just a breath of fresh air to look at now as well. There is that recognition piece. So they went from this to this, which is just so clear and gorgeous. And how did they do that? So now I want to talk about whichever pathway you're on, who should be doing what. And this is going to also be the ideal order that you need to that I would like you to go in, but you don't necessarily have to. But with Dr. Godek, he started with a branding agency. And this is that brand familiarity tool. It can be a PDF, a PowerPoint, just something that you can hand to team members that shows the brand visuals, the brand voice, the brand in context, helps train them on what the brand is. Then they have the logo design, color palette, print materials. Now, notice the big bubble in the top right has shifted. Now we're looking at who should be doing the digital traditional agency work. We have the website. So now maybe your brand team is working with your web team to make sure the brand and web is consistent. Then we have an event. Do you need to reintroduce your brand? Do you need to do just an open house? Maybe not necessarily, you don't need a full grand reopening, but you want to be able to reintroduce yourself to your audience. That included an VIP invite. And then also now we're getting into the tangible materials. So now we're looking at products and merchandise. And this is going to really start to integrate the brand loyalty piece for patients, because now they can touch and hold something, bring it home, be looking at it, wear it. They have a little lip gloss in here. That the possibilities are endless for this. And then the Godek Skin. So this is the private label skincare that your design team can be working on in tandem with your products and merchandising team. Now we're getting into media engagement, social media. Now this is branded as well. Beautiful before and afters. Even if you're partnering with another company like ourselves, it still feels like you. And I wanted to touch on this too, because even when you're hiring a big external team, if that's where you are, you still want your staff to be empowered and know your brand well enough to be able to expand on it and keep unfolding that story. And this is a great example of that. They had 100% ownership of the logo, so they were able to change the color, add a little something, and then create a little baskets for breast cancer campaign where they know the fonts they should be using. They have the icon. It's just a great example of how that story of your brand can continue to unfold, even if you have some staff members that are doing it themselves. Next is media engagement agency. They're doing your photo shoot of the practice of the team. And then we have interior designer, contractors, anyone that's interacting and working on the physical space. And I just want to point out that sometimes we have people come to us and they've already gotten an interior designer, but now they want to do branding. If you're going to do interior design and branding, we want to do one or the other first. It's really tough to be doing both at the same time, and you're trying to figure out color palettes and textures and trying to get them to cross do it, and then maybe having to go backwards. Or you're doing interior design first, and then you do the branding, and then you realize maybe the interior design isn't what you totally wanted it to be. So it's just best to just keep that in mind as well, because they are really intertwined pieces of your brand. So it's not just the branding that makes the brand, it lives through every person you decide to hire. And there's no one person that can do it all and do it all well. That's why I really want to think about it in teams, who should be doing what, and consolidating. So what questions are we going to be asking for optimal value in your brand management team? So this is the top 3 questions for internal and external brand management teams across the board. So I would really love you to decide which of these personas you're at now, the bubbler being maybe most internal, the overseer maybe kind of in between, to the pointer, we're headed towards external, and the truster is full on external. Maybe the truster is the biggest budget, the bubbler is the smallest budget. Just thinking about that. The first one we're going to analyze is the bubbler. So these are the top 3 questions for your internal team, because if you have an internal team right now, you want to make sure it's worth it, right? So number 1, I'd love for you to collaborate with my current vendors and stay within brand guidelines. What programs and tools do you typically use for your work? So thinking, do you need this? Is this worth your time? Are they compatible with your current vendors? You really want them to be able to work well together. Sometimes there's a vendor that wants an EPS file and you have a designer that maybe doesn't know what that is or doesn't have the program to generate that, and it can just get a little messy. Number 2, what got you interested in working within this field? What motivates them, passion or money? Now, this question, it may not be as important down the road, but it is at the internal team bubbler level, because you want to have that employee buy-in, also vendor buy-in in case you need to ask for any special favors. 3, is there an employee currently on your staff that has other talents? Can some people wear multiple hats to make it the most efficient for you without being spread too thin? Things like photography, social media, small design pieces, like for social media, are really great places to start. Excuse me. The goal here at this stage would be to build strong relationships with local vendors and generate that employee buy-in. Next level up is the overseer. So top 3 questions for a team of individual specialists. So now you've consolidated your bubbles into your categories of specialties. Number 1, do you have specialties in more than one area? What else do you do? And even think about it from your perspective. You might have patients coming to you for one thing that they know you specialize in, but they don't necessarily know that you have these other services that you offer, and they go to someone else. So I don't want you to be spending extra money on multiple teams if they have overlapping areas. So just thinking about consolidation. 2, oh goodness. 2, do you have current partners that you would recommend? Do you or they have experience in the aesthetics industry? As you start to move more into an external team, it's really important for them to be rooted in the aesthetics industry and have experience there as well. It's going to save you a lot of time. 3, can I introduce you to my other team for you to personally relay our branding? You're the overseer now. You can take yourself out of that middleman position and see if these teams can find synergy with each other, and they not only work well, but work well with others. And the goal at this stage is to consolidate individual resources into trusted teams. So we're starting to move towards the truster. Okay. Last one, or second to last one, the pointer. So now we're looking for questions for a brand consultant that we need to know. How will you ensure quality and quality assurance? What are your standards? Because we really need to make sure that this is worth your budget and that you're not spreading yourself out. Two, can I see case studies or examples of your most successful industry partnerships? So this may seem like an obvious question, but industry and wanting to know is at the level that you believe your brand needs for longevity. So going back to those questions again, what are my long-term goals? Does that fit this? Number three, what order do you recommend executing in? What we just went through, because we need to be able to trust and take our time first so that we don't end up taking our time later. If we're doing it fast, we can't really put the time into it. Don't bother. Just wait till you have the time so that you really make use of it. The goal is to build by looking inward first, strong industry leading partnerships. So we're starting to ask those soul searching questions to really get ourselves ahead. And the last one, the truster. So now we're asking these questions to the managing creative director. Number one, does this process start with an in-depth discovery call? Because we really want them to get to know you and your why. There are so many times where we hear patients say that they're not happy with their brand because the person doing their brand just didn't know them very well. They have to be asking those questions to really know you, because if they don't know you, they can't tell your story. Number two, do I maintain 100% ownership of complete access to my brand and branding materials? Is this the level of control and privacy that you want? You don't want to be hiring a brand management company and then you realize maybe this isn't the best for you. I need to move over, and they will not give you the native files and you're going to have to start from the beginning. So the ownership process of your brand is really important. Number three, how many people are on your brand management team? Brand management is not project management. We need specialized services. So just like those categories, whether they're separate categories or they're put into one team, we want them to be specialized, whether that's design, emails, promotional merchandise, copywriting. The goal at this stage would be very similar to Gucci. So building a strong and consistent brand presence in the minds of consumers that enhances brand value and fosters customer loyalty. So now we're getting into the emotional range. So now red flags. What red flags you should be looking for when seeking a brand management team? So we really want to analyze where we're at now so that we can consolidate and determine if we need an internal or external team, whether we're the bubbler and want to move all the way to the truster, or we're the truster and we feel like, okay, maybe we can now take a step back to the pointer persona. Top red flags. Number one, lack of brand familiarity. So we talked about needing that brand familiarity tool. We do not want people playing telephone, and we do not want to have you having to step in, rewrite things, train people over and over again. Number two, not taking time to align with your why. If they are writing copy for you and your brand that says, look and feel your best, that is not enough, because it's not a unique value proposition of the voice and tone that you want your brand to communicate. This line is an industry standard, but patients already know they want to look and feel their best. They want to know how you are going to help them achieve that. And then a bonus, if we're reliant on quick fixes and our team is not recommending for sustainable longevity, saying something, I made this in ChatGPT. Now, if you're not a creative person and you need to make something in ChatGPT to be able to inspire a creative team with what you want, that's totally okay. But if your creative team is saying this to you and just saying, here you go, that's something I want to think about a little deeper. Three, poor industry knowledge. How much hand-holding do you need to do? What is semaglutide? Is your brand management team asking you what is semaglutide? They need to be knowing some treatments and how to write about those, how to market those within the industry. So that you can say something like, hey, I want to do an e-blast about semaglutide. I want to promote this new weight loss and wellness program I'm starting. This is the offer I want to do. Can you put together that? And they say, yes. We don't want it to be, can you put that together? And they say, well, can you write all the content because I'm not sure how to write about that. 4, not listening closely, ignoring feedback, automated communication. This might seem like another obvious one, but we want you to be able to reach a personable person, especially if you're at the truster full external team level. You should be able to call someone, email someone, maybe even text someone, have them working with you on what's the best mode of communication for you. And number 5, lack of differentiation, building your brand solely based on what others are doing or trends. It is very trendy right now in the industry and in brands in general to go for neutrals, simple, clean. I hear that a lot. I just love simple. I want it to be simple and clean. That's okay. But again, we need that unique side of you, the unique value proposition. We need an accent color, a little bit of a texture, something that's going to help you stand out and attract the audience that you want. So if you could only have one takeaway, please let it be this. If your patient didn't care about the results of their treatment, then why would they get the treatment? An emotional connection. If your practice doesn't actively cultivate the result of its purpose, then why would you continue when you're losing that brand equity by the day? And actively cultivating is the branding portion, and the results of its purpose is the brand management. So really just would love for you to analyze where your brand is now. Do you need a brand redirect before you move into the brand management portion? And when you move into the brand management portion, taking an evaluation of those 6 key points and where you want to go in your long-term goals and moving forward from there. So that is all I have for today. Thank you guys so much. And just, does anyone have any questions?
That was wonderful, Aria. Thank you so much. That was a lot of information, but all very helpful.
Thank you.
So let me see. Do we have any questions?
I'm not seeing any in the chat over here, Donna.
Okay. Okay, so Aria, I have a question for you. So how much should I be spending on brand management? Because I know that that is like a question that a lot of people ask me.
Yeah, so that is a big one. Again, want to come back to your personal needs, budget, and control, and the level of control you want to have. For brand management in general, it's a percentage base. So about anywhere between 8 to 15% of your revenue you're putting into your brand management and branding. If you are a long-term established practice, maybe you can keep that on the lower end, maybe 8 to 10%. But if you're a new practice within the first kind of 3 to 5 years, then I would recommend it being a little higher in the 12 to 15% to start. And then maybe you can roll it back, but that's just to get you up and running. And a great example of that is Beautifully New. She did a full overhaul, jumped straight to the truster. She needed that redirect, but then after a while, she was able to scale it back to the brand consultant and was able to train her team and got kind of settled in. So that's kind of what I would recommend.
Okay, all right. And how do I know or analyze how much brand equity my brand has now? So how do I figure that out?
One tool that's really easy, just simple short answer, is getting your net promoter score. So if you don't know what that is or don't have that yet, you can do that right away. There's lots of tools out there, but the brand equity is all about the perception and how patients are interacting with your brand. So what a net promoter score is going to do is it's going to take in and survey that information. Are they willing to come back? buy products, recommend people? How do they view you? Do they like you? Do they hate you? Any of those kind of questions. And then there's just the general way you could have your brand management team do it, or you could do surveys. Start asking your long-term patients, if the relationship is appropriate, you could say, what does keep you coming back? And just start bringing in that information on a more personal level.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Aria today? Thank you, Aria. You were just beautiful. This is wonderful information to have. And I hope that everyone will go home and think about all of the stuff all of the knowledge and all of the things that you asked them to think about. Because I think that it's important. Brand management is one of the most important parts of building and having a practice. So I really appreciate the information that you gave us today.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Very, very helpful, Aria. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So we have about 10 minutes left if anybody has any questions, but if no one has any questions, we're going to go ahead and close it up.
And keep an eye out for your email. You will get an email with this presentations. And if you have questions that need to follow up with Donna or I, we are available for office hours every Tuesday. So we're there to answer any questions and help share some of this knowledge with you as well.